Welcome to Holdback Rack Podcast. My name is Jessica Hare. I operate Hare Hollow Farm, and we breed boas, balls, and select colubrids.
Hi, I'm Jana King. I operate ASM Royal Tails, and I breed high-end ball pythons.
We want to share our journey navigating herpetoculture and are dedicated to promoting biohazard safety for all species. And we would love you to answer the question, what's in your holdback rack? I'll try to keep the impolite conversation to a bare minimum, 50% of my normal amount.
I was going to say, that's not fun.
All right, welcome to episode 24. 24, Jana? I need help. Help me. God save the queen.
I haven't slept today. God save the queen.
I mainlined Bridgerton yesterday, and there was a lot of titties, but not a lot of D, and I was a little upset. And now here we are with our guest, Joe Phelan. Joe, how are you doing today?
It's a really interesting intro.
I started the last one.
It's always interesting. Like I said, you never know what's going to happen.
But I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Awesome. I'm so happy to have you on. It's fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you were the first podcast that she told me to listen to when she was courting me, trying to be her podcast wife.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize.
No,
No, it's okay. I was like, oh, I could probably do that. That's fine.
Yeah, it's so bad that you're like, yeah, I could do that. It makes everyone think that, they can have their own podcast.
Well, I never listened to podcasts before. Like, that wasn't a thing that I did. And she's always like, oh, because we hang out. I mean, we live 2 hours apart. So we'd see each other every couple of months. And then we'd chat reptiles like you do whenever you're with another reptile person. And she's like, people would like to hear our conversations. They're pretty fucking awesome. We're cool.
I know, and 4 hours in, you're like, we've been talking shop for four fucking hours. Might as well just hit record. It would have been good content.
Yeah. It's a good thing you live on a farm. Otherwise, my kids would probably have trashed your place. I have 3 kids.
It's fine. It's already trash. It's fine. I think From the Ground Up was like one of the best examples of like the two dudes talking format, which is, it wasn't two dudes, but that was what it felt like to me. And I actually love that format the best of all formats for podcasts. Not even, I don't know how you feel about it now, and we'll get into like podcast retrospective type talk, but I loved it. I love every minute. I even go back and re-listen to the old ones that you don't think that you like. I think they're funny. They're like, there's a level of authenticity there that you don't necessarily see in a interview style episode.
Yeah.
So thank you for all your hard work. I know it was a lot of work. I'm sure you cold emailed so many fucking people like, please God, come on.
Lots of, Instagram DMs really. But I think the thing that we were trying to do is there are a lot of two guys talking podcasts, right? And a lot of it is kind of very catered towards the hobby specifically in particular. And it's pretty much always another male on the on the other end of it and stuff like that. So we tried to have as many guests of different backgrounds. Mm-hmm. So the fact that my co-host was female and we had, it's funny because Dominique DeFalco, who obviously has a pretty much exclusively women podcast now, she went back to see how many female guests and how many guests of different backgrounds were on each podcast. And she's like, oh, all these podcasts pretty much have none besides yours, which is still unproportionately white males.
Right, absolutely.
So I think we really tried to make it a point to get a bunch of different people on, as well as people who may be biologists and stuff like that, instead of just your regular guy keeping in his basement and in drawers and stuff like that. So hopefully
the dude bros. The ball python dude bros.
Yeah, for ball pythons, it's a very specific person, I feel, who does it. And that's not terrible, but there's also a lot more people out there that want to listen to podcasts. And so hopefully we kind of went into the etc. kind of category where it could be a bunch of different things and a bunch of different people. And I'm glad to see more people doing different podcasts, because I think by the end of it, I was like, I don't feel like I've already done this for like 4 or 5 years, however long it was. I felt like it was just going through the motions, and I just want something new, someone else to do, to push the ball forward. I felt like I went as far as I could with it.
You gotten all the value out of it and put in the value that you had to give to it.
Yeah, and then it's just
Yeah,
repeating after that. And
for sure.
yeah, I'd rather you guys do it. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you might have peaked with Mark OShea in a lot of ways. Like
100%.
you did it,
actually.
and that whole year was like a banger year. You got a lot of diverse conservationists, and you got Nate Shepard, which was like the guy in the year before me in university, and a bunch of other people that I knew, herpetologists from like the wild conservation side. So you did great. I don't think there's no regrets. I think and I go back and listen to stuff all the time. I love it.
Yeah, and it was very much, a couple of young people trying to figure it out and figure out our voice, and definitely some of the earlier ones are more testy and more interesting, and yeah.
I don't know how you. I have a question way later, but I'll ignore the question, or we can ask it now. But
We're
like,
gonna get warmed up for it.
I actually liked the bickering. To me, I don't know how you feel about it. I loved it.
No comment.
Okay.
No comment. Yeah, you got to warm him up to that one.
Okay. All right. Let's get into it, Joe. Tell me all about Vert, your new venture.
Yeah, so after Port City Pet, I had essentially, and I probably haven't told much of my story outside of just essentially disappearing, because that just seemed convenient at the time. But what was going on is that I had a day job in which I was working in the fitness industry doing e-commerce for a fitness equipment retailer. And the pandemic really kind of moved the business forward, and I needed to put a lot more time into it. And I had felt that there was more of an opportunity to work in e-commerce, and particularly at this business, and kind of move forward in my career, than to continue to kind of kill myself on the reptile thing, which I had really devoted, a good 8 years of my life to doing that. And it was really great. But at the same time, I just felt like what was kind of the low-hanging fruit of what made me happy, and the reptile stuff just wasn't making me happy anymore. Not that it's more, I mean, it's really everything. I don't think I need to qualify that too much to people who have a lot of reptiles.
Yeah, you can totally, the burnout is real, and taking a break, I can completely understand.
Yeah, so from working like 12-hour days in my day job and trying to ship animals and do that whenever I could, it was just becoming so hard. And honestly, the day job part was easiest and was making me more money. That's just kind of, it came down to at one point, like, what makes more sense for my life. I think sometimes you get into it and you start putting the animals before yourself, and you kind of get used to that.
Yeah.
You get used to that year after year until it's like, yeah, you almost have no time for yourself or any time for just balance and kind of treating yourself well in a lot of different ways. So I felt like I was at that turning point. So did that, and then I moved on from that position probably about 8 months ago, and was director of e-commerce for a direct-to-consumer fitness brand here in Austin. And yeah, so I moved from Philly to Austin to take that job. And then when I was there, it's like, I was like, yeah, I never want to do a business again. That was awful. And then give it like a year and a half. And then you're like, all right, I'm kind of bored. This is kind of what I'd like to do. And after the bad taste in my mouth from the first one kind of wore off, it's like, what do I do going forward? I think this is just something that I'll naturally do all the time, regardless of, whether I have a day job or whether I'm stable or secure financially. It's not a play to make more money. It's almost my natural inclination to start businesses or sell things online and do things like that. It doesn't have to be reptiles. So right now I still have a bunch of reptiles, by the way. I just don't do it in any type of business context or anything like that. So I decided to stay in the pet industry, something I knew. I do have a dog. Her name's Dixie. She's about 11 years old. She's been, my sophomore year of college is actually when I adopted her. So for a class we needed to volunteer somewhere, and I picked to volunteer at the animal shelter. And then, so that's when I got Dixie. So that was almost 11 years ago. And she has moved from, got her in Alabama, then we moved to New York, then Colorado, then Texas, then Philly, then back to Texas. So she's kind of been there the whole time during this whole thing. And yeah, I thought, hey, A, I love my dog. B, it's a giant market compared to snakes if we're just thinking business wise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's like I felt like I put in a lot of effort in this niche of reptiles for an industry that really hates people trying to make money and things like that. People don't want you to be that successful.
Right.
And if you're that successful, then they start to hate you.
I was just
and I'm like,
shit on you. Yeah.
Yeah, why would I put my whole life into this? Sorry, I don't mean to be discouraging about the reptile thing.
No, you're doing great.
If you love it that much, like people say Brian Barczyk doesn't love his animals, right? In order to devote 30 years of your life and get shit on every single day, he has to love something.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Or you don't have any feelings. And I have a feeling that he has many feelings. So, yeah. So I think that's something that you need to you need to be next level committed to.
Right.
In order to do it. And whatever that is, I didn't have it in the reptile sense. I didn't want arrows slung at me every day. And every time I got more success, more arrows come. I wanted to be in a place where I could have a business and be on the back end, and people don't necessarily know that it's me who runs the business, that kind of thing. Like any other brand, whatever brand you bought off the internet most recently, you bought a Yeti cooler, you don't know who the guy is. Right. He doesn't get shit on because his coolers aren't good enough, or he doesn't treat his coolers properly, or
or you don't like the way he set up his enclosure.
Yeah. There's so many things, and then every once in a while I get off and I take a video of my iguana, or I take a video of my Lacerda, and then someone shits on me, and then I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I don't do this. Thank you for that. So now I know why, because you're telling me how to take care of my animal, right? And I just showed up for like a second here, and imagine if, I used to post every day. That just kind of adds up, and so I feel like I'm kind of going on tangents here.
No, it's okay. This is exactly what I wanted to get to, because I could sense this in your like LED Queens interview with Cesar, that like you were just tired of like the incremental 1,000 cuts of I'm gonna neg your confidence forever. So I always like wondered, like, if you had stopped the podcast sooner, maybe after that sort of Mark OShea, like the big year, and just been like, I'm going to pretend to be Don Soderberg. I'm going to have my own Facebook group where I curate my own posts, and it's my rules, and I'm Don, and I don't give a fuck. And then like you sort of control your exposure to your own market. Would that have changed anything? Or do you still think people would be like, fuck you? Which they probably would have. But like the exposure like brings good and ill a lot.
Yeah, I think that he grew his business at a time in which it was conducive to have low touch. Right. And then by the time our business / society as a whole became high touch, he had a big enough name to create his own community of people. For me, I was still trying to convert the general audience and to kind of get my name and reputation out there that I'm someone to trust. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, you go on Don's page and there's probably a post about a certain lineage of animals in which he's trying to defend the, where it originated or what genetics are made up. He still has that kind of inter-community drama of shit that really doesn't matter. Yeah. That people believe matters.
Nobody cares. Yeah, I don't get into the drama at all. I'm just like,
I do.
Drama, what?
I did a little bit.
I mean, sometimes I can't help it. Yeah, sorry. I need to defend myself, or, the person who says I'm not taking care of my animal, I need to like look into science and how I can prove the fact that I'm doing the right thing. Like, I can't just let it go.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And it sort of like starts to demoralize you in a way, because we're all like as stupid monkeys with monkey brains. You're like, 1 or 2 negative comments outweighs 4,000 positive ones, and you just can't get over it. I know. I agree 100%. It's maybe we're idiots for having a podcast channel. We should leave.
Well, I think that if you stay on audio and stuff like that, there's actually, the podcast probably was the most positive thing that I had. And like, it is that kind of inner community in which people who listen to the podcast would DM me on Instagram, but they would never be like, remember what you said in this part of the podcast? They would actually never do that.
I feel like, and maybe you agree, but like, to me, the podcast is not like a high growth format, but it's a high like fidelity. Like the people who decide to like you, like learn to like you a lot because they have spent 2 hours with you every week or whatever. And so they're much more loyal 1,000 people than like the 50,000 randos that like dip into your YouTube video and are like, fuck this guy. So I like podcasts as far as like protecting yourself from too much unnecessary exposure to people who won't buy these things from you anyway. I don't know. I'm guessing wildly here.
Yeah, for the podcast, it would be like, oh, this is so-and-so. I know him first name, last name, her first name, last name. They DM me on Instagram. But my whole like brain space is occupied by like Jenny Pants 93 who commented on one picture a week ago. And I can't make my brain be like, oh, that's like a low quality relationship, and I have all these high quality relationships that are positive. But yeah, I don't know. It's I mean, I do have a lot of great relationships through reptiles and stuff like that, and people that I obviously still talk to. And most of that stems from the podcast, and I do believe it is a format that lends itself to. I mean, I'm introverted, and it sounds stupid for someone who talks a lot into a microphone, things like that, or had a podcast. but like talking to people will drain me a lot. But the podcast is so low touch as far as there's not 100 people commenting right now or things like
Absolutely.
that. So I get to have my spurt for 2 hours, and then I get to rest and come back next week. So that's really. So I think it does work for someone who may be introverted and more kind of into that low touch type of situation. But I got off the tangent of the company. So go.
Yeah, I was just going to redirect.
Rewind to that. Rewind to that dog part. So I decided I wanted to be in a larger industry, but within the pet industry, something that I kind of understand, as well as e-commerce, because e-commerce is kind of where I operate in a professional sense. And honestly, since Port City Pet, I feel like I've gotten much better at, say, developing, designing, and creating e-commerce websites, funnels, marketing, all that stuff. So I wanted to kind of flex a little bit, some more skills like that, and kind of give it another go. So I really wanted to create a product that aligned with kind of my ideas that I had in Port City Pet, which were always, how do I do a business that I feel good about, doesn't kill the environment, doesn't harm, say, in reptiles. I always wanted to breed my own stuff. I didn't really want to import. I wanted to make sure they're going to good homes, things like that. So how do I take those ideas and kind of put them into a different pet product? And then I realized that pretty much every single leash on the market is made out of synthetic fibers. So it's some type of like polyester, nylon, things like that. And then I realized that not only do those synthetic fibers not biodegrade, but they also contribute to plastic pollution in the water supply. So basically, every time you wash, even say if you have a shirt that's made of synthetic fibers, you essentially put microplastics into the environment every single time you wash it.
It's so
or when
cool.
you throw it out, it's pretty much there. So
we just did a study where there's like microplastic in our blood. If you like drink out of like plastic, if you drink out of plastic containers, that they just did a study. I'll have to find it.
No, I saw it. I mean,
you saw it.
Even
Okay.
like Inuits that are living on an ice floe somewhere have enough like decomposed estrogenic compounds from plastics deteriorating and then being like upfed into like seal blubber that we're all doomed. It's good job, Joe. Thank you for helping. fuck.
Imagine how that, this has only been, what, 50 years of this? I mean, how long have we been using? Probably not that long in the comparison of,
Human
the
history.
whole scope
Right.
of human history and Earth.
We're doing a real good job fucking it up.
So since the Industrial Revolution, we've really, the last 100 years, we've really done a number. But anyway, so this is a collar that's made of all natural fibers. So it's the outside is like a bamboo canvas, in which bamboo produces actually 35% more oxygen than a tree of equivalent mass, as well as absorbs as much as 12 tons of carbon dioxide per hectare per year. So it replenishes oxygen and takes, carbon out of the atmosphere, as well as it doesn't really affect the soil that much because, first of all, you plant it once and then you basically cut it off at the root and then let it grow again. So it's kind of a sustaining year after year growth. And then also it doesn't really need much nutrients from the soil. And the complex root systems actually keep the soil together and stop things like landslides, stuff like that. So bamboo, very efficient and just a really interesting resource as far as if we can make it more effective as a fiber or using it as clothing. So that's going to be like the harder outside of each leash and each collar. And then the inside's cotton. So basically, if it was all bamboo, it wouldn't be as pliable and it wouldn't be as comfortable for the animals. So the backing is cotton. And obviously, I mean, we know cotton, it takes a good amount of water, stuff like that, but it's also biodegradable. So after less than a year, I mean, it will be 95% degraded. That's in comparison to 4%, degradation of polyester fibers and things like that. And then those that are degraded
Our
are
grandkids can dig up those dog collars and still be able to use them. Not yours, the ones on the market right now.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll be shedding plastics whenever they do degrade to whatever degree. So yeah. And then the one thing I couldn't really get across or ahead of was the buckle. So most collars do have plastic buckles. And there are some plastic alternatives that may be interesting to kind of think of going forward. Are they probably durable enough to be in a dog collar right now and sustainable from a price point? Probably not. But so I just went with all metal buckles. So I
That's
cool.
Can't. You don't see
premium.
that often.
Premium.
Yeah. So it's like, hey, if it's not going to be biodegradable, I really wanted a leash that was 100% biodegradable. But if I can't make it biodegradable, then at least make it super durable. So all metal accessories with like the loop fastener as well as the buckle, stuff like that. Vert Pet is going to be pet accessories that are mindful to the environment and starting off with collars and leashes and hopefully expanding into other things that are, natural and not harmful to the environment.
All right,
That's
I have
amazing.
a question, but you can decline the question because it's a secret potentially. How did you source your manufacturer and get them to approve your designs? Or if you don't want to talk about that, 'cause sometimes that is a secret, you don't have to.
So there's a lot of different ways to find manufacturers in China. It's super easy. So obviously bamboo, the majority of it's going to be grown in China. The majority of anything that we buy and sell is going to be made in China.
Right.
There's not anyone making these fibers in the United States. So yeah, if you want to mention the fact that obviously it's going to take fuel and stuff to get this over from China, obviously I'm a drop in that giant bucket.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that to accuse you, but a lot of people are like,
but it's definitely from China. And how do I get the suppliers? The way everyone else gets it.
Alibaba.
From China. So you go to Alibaba you go to. There's basically more. If you just put in like manufacturers China, you can find it. But I mean that's why it's not a secret. Obviously, it's very easy to do. It's finding a good manufacturer.
Yes.
And
how many pieces did they make you? Sorry to interrupt. So, did they make you force you to do to make it worth it for them? I don't know if you want to share that either. I know this is trade secrets. You can round.
No.
Some people it is trade secrets. Like they go to the garment district in LA,
theoretically, I
and it's
shouldn't
like,
say this.
okay, I can cut it out. Sorry, you can just tell me.
No, you're good. So each manufacturer has a different MOQ, right? So that's minimum order quantity. And I think this was probably around 500.
Okay, that's pretty good.
That's not bad at all.
I was thinking you had to buy.
I would say,
50,000.
Yes, like literally 50,000 units. I'm like, where is he storing it?
well, yeah. So that depends on what kind of product you're doing,
Right.
as well as their capacity. So a smaller factory is willing to basically do smaller MOQs and do customizations, things like that. So basically, if you wanted to start something like this, like say you want to make a product. And you get it manufactured in China, you want to start with probably between $5,000 and $10,000. And I mean, you want more for operational expenses, things like that. And if you can't
that's
do
product, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's plenty of other expenses. Maybe instead of buying a 3 morph recessive ball python, you can start a business that pays you back over and over and over again. But hey, the best opportunities is in a living, breathing animal that has all these different factors in which can make you fail, right? So you're
full
going
of
to do
disease
that.
Also. Just full, just brimming to the top with disease.
Keel over, no warning.
Anytime.
Or not breed at all.
You have insurance on those things, right?
Yikes.
No?
No, they don't let you have insurance on those
And
things.
then they light your house on fire.
Oh,
when
they're
the heat
built in
takes
with
over?
fire starting devices.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I could go on like
No, please do.
There's so many people who want to do this as a business. Why don't you think about like starting an actual business?
Right.
Instead of kind of investing into maybe a pyramid scheme.
It is
totally a pyramid scheme. We have a whole episode where we talk about it. If you don't recognize that it's a pyramid scheme, maybe you should leave.
Yeah, and listen, if you can invest to the top of that pyramid, you can also be successful though. So absolutely. I don't want to say that it's something that can't make you money and you can't be successful at, because that's just not true. You can do both of those things. But are there better, easier ways to make money? In my opinion, there are. But then again, I guess, is it easy for me to say, like, well, the people who are selling it are the people who want to sell to you that it's easy money and that you're going to love it. This is the greatest thing I've ever done. I love every time I open
There's
every single bin.
There's something slightly predatory about every reptile podcast, including this one. Fuck it. Where you're just like, oh yeah, I love it.
Buy all the snakes. It's so great.
Fuck. No, it's okay. But I mean, to push back, like direct-to-consumer sales has had like a rocky history on, the internet, because the Google is a fucking fickle bitch. She could give you SEO for a while, and no matter what you throw at her, she might be like, fuck you, I don't want to. Or whatever.
So,
are you going to use SEO to like optimize that? Or are you going to like, I have like brick and mortar questions, but we can just go over that here. Like, do, dog shows and pet shows to like get word of mouth to tie into SEO so you get local sales too? Or
yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to get sales, whether it be on the internet, whether it be wherever you may sell your product. So basically my marketing mix will be capturing emails. So email for me, so in the businesses that I've been in, first of all, we've attracted about 5,000 people a day with just organic SEO. And we've done, probably $20,000 a week with email marketing. We've done $20,000 a week with affiliate marketing. There's all these different ways. And quite frankly, you need to do the most of them that you can with competency. So yeah, I'm going to try to play the SEO game, but will it be difficult because I don't really have the funds to hire a blog writer who's going to be mindful of all my keywords, as well as I may not be able to find other people with prominent blogs and guest blog and get backlinks. And this is going to get into the weeds in case anyone wants to know more about this stuff. There's probably better resources SEO wise. So it's all of the things. So SEO, but when I get people to my website, is my website designed well? Is the UI UX usable just in general? Are people getting to the cart? Are there things that are stopping people from buying from me, whether it be I don't look professional or there's something at checkout that's basically getting in their way? All the general best practices for having a website. And then text messages, SMS marketing has been huge for me as well. So this is in my professional life, not just necessarily for my personal businesses.
So that's
So
what you're drawing from is your professional experience.
yeah, and I mean obviously social has been huge for me too. That's been more so in my personal business than has been say in my professional. So I would say that there's a lot of different ways to get people to you. There's a lot of different ways, even paid marketing. I mean, I'm running paid ads for one of my businesses right now. And guess what? That works too. And quite frankly, all of these things work a lot better not in reptiles. All, all other businesses that I've worked in, it is easier to acquire and convert a customer than it is in reptiles.
Yeah, it's like pulling
They
teeth.
add to cart and check out and have a good day.
Yeah.
They don't ask you when the last time the snake shit was,
I
when
need
they
a
shed,
video of them
the
next
weight
to
of
a
their last.
newspaper. Yeah.
With
Yeah,
my
and the
name
thing
on it.
is that the same guys who are telling you I love this is the best thing I've ever done in my life. They're like, best practice for buying a snake, find out when it last shed, find out what it weighs now, find out what it eats. And yeah, that's all great, but fuck, is that a pain in the ass if you're trying to sell a snake? And you're not supposed to talk about that. You're supposed to say, do it with a smile on your face, which sure, you can do that, but also there's a lot of other things you can sell for $500 that don't have that attached to it.
Yeah,
And if
I
you don't
think.
answer those questions right, then you're treated like scum.
Yeah,
So,
I'm surprised how many bright, coherent adults get into the reptile industry, and their business savviness would have taken them actually much further. Literally doing anything, they could sell donuts, and they'd probably do much better because they're keeping books and dealing with the worst customers of all times. And it's just the passion that keeps people in, I think, the desire to make it work.
yeah, when I first got into the fitness industry, I was like, oh my God, we don't try to do anything for these customers. Shit,
And they
we
just show
tell them
up.
no sometimes. And they just keep on coming, and they're rich as fuck, and they buy a $3,000 treadmill. Like, holy
Yeah.
shit. I thought you needed to wait 3 years and 2,000 grams to get this kind of
Right.
money. But turns out, holy shit, you can just buy and resell things. So yeah, if you like business, and not all reptile people like business.
Yeah, that's true. For sure.
And guess what? I mean, that person's probably gonna fail at a reptile business too. So, but if you're good at business, I think there's just better things to do. And I like doing business, and I like reptiles. I don't like doing
Reptile business.
reptile business. Yeah.
Reptile emails and response. Yeah, that makes me crazy.
Why did you pick? I know dogs are more common, but you're competing with dog products. Why didn't you pick a reptile product as your hard line product first instead of a dog product, or you just wanted to retransition yourself to, more common pet products first? Does that
I
make sense?
wanted to not have a business
That had anything to do with reptiles.
tied to my
Okay.
myself.
All right.
Or I didn't want to be personally involved as much. I believe if I just did something else in reptiles, it would still come off as Joe's business.
Joe's doing something
Joe's
again.
reptile
Yeah.
business. And I mean, you see that with Ryan McVeigh's business now, right?
Yeah.
He's made a name for himself, which is great. So now you have Ryan McVeigh's business, and people
Yeah.
kind of know it as that just as much as the regular business name. So if I built a business in reptiles, it would be much harder to exit. Say if I was successful in it, to have Central Pet and Garden buy me, which is what happened to Zilla, I believe. And it would be a lot harder based on the fact that it's inextricably tied to my name and everything like that. So it's if I leave, the marketing machine kind of goes down and it's basically worth less. So So yeah, I mean that's part of it. Just business. Sounds lame.
Well, I think I can't remember his name right now, but the guy who had Pro Exotics and his Redline tools, I'm not even sure his business name, is Redline Equipment or whatever. He's sort of more detached from his product line, even though he's doing stuff to promote it, because he's like, he does the Reptile Report and other things. So it's probably possible, but you were so like intrinsically tied to Port City Pet and from the ground up that I could definitely see like wanting to put the separation there so you could like hire people to do everything and still have a functional business, even if you didn't want to be there for a week or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Robin does a great job with that. That's Robin Martin
sorry.
who does that. And I mean, he was with Pro Exotics with Chad, Ship Your Reptiles, that stuff. And what he is he is business savvy, internet savvy, and then therefore he doesn't have to play the reptile. He also doesn't have any game.
Reptiles. So like he just it's like because it's the fire. We're back to fire. He's hurt his feelings so long ago. He still loves it, but he doesn't want to sort of commit to a bunch of expensive living things that are flammable.
And I wonder how much of that is part of being a little nervous to reinvent yourself and start over in a whole new industry.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I don't give a fuck. I will do it. So that's what I'm just trying to have a fresh start in a lot of different ways. And I think that I can translate business to a bunch of different industries and take my point of view from what I learned from maybe when I was younger and I had skating companies, things like that, that were kind of revolved around that, or reptiles, things that I love like that. And I don't know if you can hear my rhino iguana.
It's okay. I love it. Keep going.
And so I can translate it to a bunch of different industries, and I'm not afraid to just try things and fail. And so I'm also doing right now a gym business, a gym assembly business. So basically I go to someone's house, I'll assemble their gym equipment, stuff like that. So I learned that you can actually do a service business and start making money. I started it yesterday, and I'll make $700 this week just based on jobs that I booked from today and yesterday. So, and I have experience in that industry.
Did you do it on like Angie's List, or did you have your own sort of SEO funnel to like your website and your booking?
So you can go to gymassembly.com. So first of all, got a good ass domain.
All right, go.
Need a website that looks like it could be a franchise or looks like people can trust.
Right.
A lot of my clients, website wise, they may do services or they may have a retail business, and they're like, make me look mom and pop, all this other shit. But people want to trust you these days, as far as they don't want Joe Schmo. They want basically a larger company that they can depend on, and they know that they can trust. So I use Thumbtack. I use Angie List. So I did some general marketing, general paid, basically leads and stuff like that through there. But I also did Google Ads, which haven't really turned over yet. So that should be interesting when that happens. And I just, in 2 days, like I said, about $700, and I'll have a guy working with me tomorrow. So I can basically hire labor from the very beginning and start outsourcing and start scaling.
As 1099s employees?
So, yeah. So initially it will be that. And then hopefully, because I have zero infrastructure to support having an actual employee, it's literally been 2 days. Yeah, we'll get to there eventually. I'm not sure what I want to do. I was like, because you can't have a 1099 if it's an essential part of your business.
Right.
So I don't know how Uber and how Postmates get away with it. So I used to work for Postmates. I used to do data entry, and then I used to be a courier too when I first started Port City Pet. And I got money in a settlement to where someone sued them for being a 1099 when they should be an employee, because it's an essential business function.
Right.
I don't think they changed what they're doing because they just settled, right? So they just paid that guy to shut the fuck up. And then
they paid off a couple of Congress people also, and they're like, don't worry about this.
Yeah, so it's like I would love to make gymassembly.com if I can get 1099s all around the country, and I just give them jobs.
Oh, he's franchising everybody. Call him up now to get your franchise opportunity.
But I don't I don't have the money to settle with someone if they
Yeah.
don't like what I'm doing. I don't want it.
Well,
Just
it would be a
seems very
1099
hairy.
if you didn't tell them when they had to make the appointment and show up. If you're like, here's your contact, here's the person, you call them and you decide when you're doing it, and you don't control how they sort of do their job or how much time it takes. And you're like, I get 20% commission off the top, you get the rest or whatever.
Will you be
Yeah.
my lawyer?
Yeah, let's franchise right away. This is the best plan.
So
She'll
and,
do it too.
and listen, I was just this is fucking just me experimenting, right? With these little things. Like in business, I like to do a bunch of little experiments.
Yeah.
And kind of see what works. And this is working right now. I'll probably continue doing it for a bit and stuff like that and see how I can scale it and how I can do it. But that's just an example of something that can bring you in money right away.
Right,
if
you're
not
cash
dumb-dumb.
flowing immediately instead of 2,000 grams, whatever, after the wall.
Yeah.
Fuck. So are you working
to
right now
produce.
and like slotting in all these 12 businesses for someone
Well,
else?
37 businesses.
Or
No,
did you
I,
come down there and just fucking raw dog it? Like, Houston, take me on. I'm ready. That was inappropriate.
So,
I'm not really that
Not at
sorry,
all.
though.
so I was director of e-commerce for Fringe, and then I quit like 2 weeks ago. And
Were they
now-
slowing down, like, now that COVID is kind of given up, or were they...
So e-commerce business. Let's talk a little bit about pandemic
right.
stuff, if you don't
Yeah.
mind.
No,
This
yeah,
It's
I'm
gonna be
ready.
Like a business podcast.
Yes,
as
it
long as
is.
You guys
Fine.
are cool
Yeah,
with that.
I'm ready.
Hey, it's
Okay.
better than talking about the 1,000-gram wall for the 10th time.
They won't eat. Pandemic business. Okay, so fitness industry in particular, this goes for a lot of different businesses as well. And the very public example of this would be Peloton. So Peloton, what happened to them happened to the whole fitness industry. They just did it very publicly as a publicly traded company, and it was a total shit show. Demand went up a lot very quickly during the pandemic as everyone moving to home fitness equipment and stuff like that, trying to build their own home gyms. So we were getting a lot more orders. So say one of the businesses I was with went from about 2 million, which they've been doing for the last 20 years, and went up to 6 million essentially. But during that time, we sold out all of our inventory, and we were trying to get inventory from our suppliers, but we couldn't because
Right.
a lot of these, the chips that were in treadmills are made in Taiwan. Some of them are made in China. And not only were there hurdles as far as COVID and not being able to move product because of that, but there was just a shortage of all types of materials because this demand has never been so high. All of a sudden, it's 3 to 5 times the demand as usual. So fast forward a year later, all of a sudden the supply catches up, and the pandemic's kind of slowing down. Gyms are opening back up with masks on, so supply catches up. They start shipping all of these orders that we ordered during the pandemic,
Ooh,
and then demand drops.
right.
Now all of a sudden, every fitness company has warehouses that are filled with shit that they can't sell
Right.
because product finally came in, and they're forecasting based on these pandemic numbers.
Right.
And they're thinking that, I guess, for whatever reason, that things are always just going to grow and continue going on, which is ridiculous. But businesses always think that way. They tend to ignore reality and decide that, this year is going to be better than last. And here's your numbers,
Aw.
double this number from last year. But that's just not what happened. So a lot of businesses were inventory heavy and cash poor. So it's been a real struggle to sell things, and a lot of discounting and a lot of moving to new warehouses that you can't afford and taking on extra expenses. So the last 2 years have been really hard coming from being really, really busy to just really, really stressed because you don't know like the health of each business. So this isn't necessary. This is as a whole, right? So don't read into this as the businesses I worked for, things like that. So yeah, it's been a really volatile time. But where like the gym assembly part comes in is that everyone still has these things in their home. I just built a website for my friend who does this in Pennsylvania. He actually serviced one of the old businesses I worked for. So he has a bunch of apartment buildings that he goes and he services on like a monthly basis, something like that. And he cannot keep up with the demand for people wanting their fitness machines repaired. So what that tells you is there's excess demand and not enough supply, and he's not willing to scale. He's one of those guys who just wants to be like the one guy in the truck thing and keep it low stress. So that's the opportunity, and that's the market that I saw based on being in the industry, based on knowing people who do this, and knowing the types of people who do this. There's one big franchise who does it all around the country, but that's really it. All the rest are kind of mom and pop and kind of all over the place, and don't want to scale or do anything, and don't get back to you for 3 days or whatever. They're used to the customer needing them instead of serving their customer. So that maybe gives you a little insight on how I found like the opportunity for the gym stuff. It may seem like I just put up a website and put things up there willy-nilly to see if it works.
Oh no, yeah, we didn't want
to
imply that.
But yeah, there's a market need, and I would say whatever industry you're in now, whoever's listening to this, as long as it's not reptiles, you try to find the white space and the area that someone's not occupying and that you can uniquely do a better job at. So mom and pop Joe Schmo are never good at the internet. They never have a good website. They never make it convenient for customers to reach out to them. No one wants to talk to you on the phone, man.
No.
Give them a form and they'll fill it out or something
Do
like
not
that.
fucking call me or you don't have my business.
So yeah, like you can live chat with me on the website. You can add a form that gets sent to my email, and I'll call you back, or I'll text you, or I'll whatever you say on the form. So yeah, I mean, there's just what they say about business. It's like there's a Mousetrap reference where it's like build a better mousetrap.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So take something that's already existing on the market and try to make it better.
I think people
as long as that market sustains it.
Are sorry to interrupt. People they forget that service industry guys are like millionaires. Like the guy cutting your grass, if he has a little business and he sort of franchised out and he gets lots of contracts, he's 24. He didn't go to college. He was smart the whole way through. And now he's a millionaire, has $1 million company, owns lots of assets, and can park it all and not have that much carrying costs for whatever, because he doesn't have a retail front. He just buzzes around the fucking Golden Corral every once in a while, and he's done with his contract for the, people forget about that. Pool cleaning dudes, maybe in short shorts. I don't know. For me, that's how I would want my pool cleaning dudes.
And everyone, so right now there's just a very big shortage of blue collar workers, things like that. So
absolutely,
you can pretty much take any service business like that, make it better, and as long as you can delegate in the beginning, you find a way to delegate and kind of give up control. And you may have to hire people over and over and over again. It may be a revolving door because people
suck.
I don't know. They want a job where I think more and more people in the workplace want something easier, something 9 to 5, something very simple, straightforward, and something they may be able to tell their mom about and then be proud or something like that, which is like, I don't know. What do people do these days? Everyone has a fucking college degree now.
Yeah, I know, it sucks. I can't believe it. Me too.
I went that route as well. I'm not saying be a blue collar worker. I'm just saying that's white space. And I'm not saying I'm going to be a blue collar worker. I'm going to use what I learned in school and then employ. That sounds so shitty. And employ people as a fucking business.
So I have a fucking master's degree. I went for my master's in herpetology. Like, I am the biggest idiot in the entire world. So it's fine. But
tell them how much you make raising rats with your master's.
I also palpate their buttholes to get that last turd out before I freeze them with my master's degree. Woo! So, I mean, I'm on board here. I think people want like good jobs that sound good on paper, but they want like work-life balance, maybe mobile jobs where they can do geographic arbitrage, jobs that are flexible so they can do stuff with their life and see their partners or kids or whatever. all of that is good, and I think people demand that. So like having your own business is a way to ensure that for you and your employees potentially.
Yeah, and I think there's a way that you can provide that kind of flexibility. And I've seen it work in, plenty of small businesses where we did retain all of our employees and we did give them a lifestyle and a balance that kind of made sense. You can tell who wants. So like there's someone who I worked with in which I could tell that he has very big dreams about what he's doing. He has the skill set that I want in the position that I'm hiring for. But I could see that he wants to somehow make 6 figures a year within like a month, and he's very young.
Aw,
And
yeah,
it's like,
he'll
yeah,
get it.
you're gonna be unhappy with what I give you, even though maybe if you stayed with what I give you, you could get there eventually.
Right.
So it's hard. I mean, some people, and I probably did the same thing. Like my ambitions were too high to get started earlier on, and that's not even true though. I started off like. After college, I was a warehouse worker for an e-commerce business. So we took pool stuff and fireplace stuff and started selling it online and took it from like 10 orders to about 110 orders a day. And that was my first experience of selling things online and being in e-commerce, but I had to start with picking and packing and working in the warehouse to do it. So yeah, sometimes you gotta start at the bottom, unfortunately.
No, I think you're making it. And I love the product you picked because it's small and it's not heavy and it ships.
Also, so yeah, I was in the fitness industry, so there's a lot of things that are 500 pounds. We're shipping weight plates, you know, these things that are small and compact sometimes, but heavy as hell. So yeah, I was like, I don't want to mess with that stuff anymore. I want to make something that, first I wanted to fit into like poly mailers because I have these recyclable biodegradable poly mailers that I can use. And then I don't have to ship a priority. They can go first class if there's only one of them. It's under a pound.
I guess that means you're not doing FBA.
Yeah, so that's something to talk about too, because I've used a mix of that throughout all my positions for the most part. So if you guys don't know what she means by FBA, that means, so in this context it's a little bit different. You mean, that means fulfilled by Amazon. But say if you wanted to take that out at a broader scope, it could be a 3PL, which is a third-person logistics company, who you can actually get your stuff. Say if I manufacture in China, I can get the Chinese factory to send my stuff to this warehouse in Indianapolis, which is nice. It's in the middle of the country. And then they basically disperse my orders. They'll pick and pack for me. And since they're a much bigger company, they have a lot less errors.
Right.
So say at my positions, we usually had errors between 1% and 2%. And as you scale, as you get more people and you sell more product, you're able to put more systems in place. You're able to make systems that are more efficient and effective, and then therefore you have less errors, and then therefore you make less customers pissed off. So 1% is not a lot, but you're shipping out 1,000 orders a day, then what is that, 10 customers? I'm not good at math. I shouldn't do public math.
It doesn't matter. Some amount.
It's like 10 or 100, somewhere in between there.
It's 10. It's okay.
Yes.
And then, so essentially you're getting your product at a higher cost, but you also don't need to hire warehouse workers, which are constantly just don't show up, or operations and logistics.
Too stoned in their car outside the warehouse.
That's 100% correct. And so they're actually, it's some of the hardest. The operations and logistics are some of the hardest hurdles to overcome as an e-commerce business. It's easy when you're smaller and you can have like one guy that you trust,
right?
And there's only one point of contact and one thing that can go wrong. And then as you scale, you just all these hourly workers that you can't afford to pay too much, but they also suck, and then you need to get it's a whole nightmare. So for some people it makes sense to do the 3PL, but that has to be baked into like your profit margins and things like that.
Is that part of your trajectory, you think, or do you feel the burning desire to have a warehouse and all those stoners in the parking lot of your own? One day.
So I think it makes sense to do 3PLs. I'm not sure. So say if we used Amazon as an example, usually their fee is 15%. So I need to equate for 15% of my revenue being taken from me. And then I need to also say how much does it cost to ship. For what I'm doing, it would probably cost about $2.50 each to ship to an Amazon warehouse.
Even if
So-
it's comes straight from the, well, you have to like package them for them in advance, but even if you like bulk sent it to them like a couple thousand at a time, it would still cost $2.50
Yeah,
a
so
piece.
what you could do, that's a good point. You can have your manufacturer put your FBA labels on your product and send them to Amazon
Right.
straight
Yeah.
from
If you
China.
didn't notice, I did look into it a lot once long ago because I was like, sounds fucking sweet. Like, this is a great business model. If you can pick the right product at the right time before the Chinese
so that's
competitors
never-
come in and copy and then move on. But
That's never worked for the businesses I'm in just because we usually had a lot of SKUs on one container.
yeah,
Say if we were just bringing in like 10,000 of one product that was small and FBA-able, then yeah,
like
it makes
collars
sense.
or leashes.
Like collars. Yeah. So it's definitely something to think about. But I mean, just starting out, I'm not willing to sacrifice the profit margin
yeah.
and stuff like that into just doing it myself.
I think you also have said it before, you like the process of shipping. You enjoy, packing. So, sure.
Yeah, it's okay. Like I have it down, right? I've done with
a lot.
snakes and doing isopods. I've done it a lot.
Yeah.
And I have the thermal printer, and I have all the stuff that makes sense that I can make it easy to go and do it. So, yeah, I mean, at the beginning of your business, you have to be scrappy, pretty much regardless of what you're doing. Yeah, I mean, even people who do have capital to start out, what I see from good entrepreneurs is that they kind of have this scrappiness from 0 to 1, kind of the start, regardless of where they're at. Sometimes when you have too much money, you kind of just spend all your money and become bloated from the very beginning. And then, so yeah, you just start off
That's how
with
I felt this morning.
nothing. I start off many mornings bloated.
Bloated from the beginning. Have you thought about doing trying to locate a manufacturer in the U.S. so you could do like seasonal product launches that are a little faster and FOMO-ier and being like, look, it's the new spring design of my collar and it has a matching girl bandana or something stupid to like drive this sort of, I don't know.
So what that pretty much depends on are materials that can be screen printed on, or so pretty much at least the ones that I see now that have designs on them are all synthetic fibers that can be easily screen printed on. I'm not sure if that's the case. The bamboo fiber doesn't take like dye the best even, so you're gonna see the collars. Say the blue's very dark, the green is very dark, the salmon's pretty dark, but ultimately you're still gonna see a bit of like whiteness in there.
Okay.
That's probably a better way to
Yeah,
say
it
that.
almost
But
has like a wool type coloration to it.
so yeah, it's not gonna be a uniform color. So I don't think it's not a good surface to print on. It's not the easiest to dye. And so yeah, it's something to think about because say, I'll give you an example. We did novelty items at my last job, and we would make a bumper plate that was colored like a donut. We would make a bar that was dripping in gold, essentially. And we would do product launches and be very successful with them. And like we even had, since Queer Eye was in Austin, our plates were in a Queer Eye episode, and since they're so unique, it's like everyone can tell
Right.
that that's our plate, which is really cool. So those novelty things are something that I'm both familiar with and interested in. It's also a bit wasteful, and even though we kind of made that a perennial seller, that's not always the case. We also kind of fell on our faces a couple times.
And so they couldn't move the product.
Yeah, if I made collars with sprinkles and then collars with tacos and collars with sushi rolls and collars with avocados,
They're
those
still
would all
collars
sell.
though, but like, your
But it would
dog
sell.
doesn't care. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, just like, limited run prints, basically, which is how anybody selling anything that's pretty durable gets you to buy another one.
Yeah, so that's something to think about, right? So what's your reorder rate? So going into this, I actually wanted an item that you use month after month. I like the idea of a subscription service. I mean, that's why you see a lot of these businesses built on like soap or shampoos, or they're doing like the new version of this, the man version of this, the whatever version of this, because those are things that you buy month
all
after
the time,
month.
right?
Yeah. So there are some certain things in dogs that are perennial sellers like that, not perennial like yearly, but on a monthly basis that you can subscribe to.
I mean, would you want to run
box.
a treat box, or whatever, to complement?
Like a sustainable.
So I think that those have been successful, have been failures more often than successful. So I think there was a time in which it was very fashionable and everyone had their own subscription box model. And really the only one that stuck around, I think, was the beauty one. What's that one?
Talking to the wrong girls.
Fuck,
It's the one by that really famous, the really
one.
famous influencer, Michelle. Is her name Michelle? But basically, she made a really, really popular beauty box brand, and then BarkBox. I feel like those are the two that really won out, and a lot of them just kind of shit the bed right away.
I think the problem is people were putting in stuff that people couldn't use fast enough or cared about enough. So
quite frankly, yeah, people want what they want.
Yeah.
They don't want mystery is cute for a second, but then until you get something that you're not going to use, then you're like, fuck this. I could have just bought what I want.
Yeah. To me, like, this model reminds me of the Instagram influencers that have a manufacturing business that launches like a new line of jewelry every 3 months or whatever. And so they're like, this is my fucking astrology collection. And they're like, are you a Taurus? And it's like the dumbest shit ever. But nobody needs extra jewelry, but there's this like, this piece of jewelry costs $2 from China. She can sell it for $39 if she brands it as the Capricorn color gem or whatever. And so it's something new every 3 months to return to the brand and like get re-inspired to like it again. I don't know. So I don't know how you would make it like seasonal.
They do this in, say, fitness apparel. So there's a company called Alpha Elite, has a bunch of influencers behind it. The way that they did it was they ran a fall collection. They got product, but not enough product to basically sustain a business month after month. They bought enough product to where it would sell out. So they buy it, they sell it out. The margins in apparel are good enough to where you can do this. It's not very good in a lot of other businesses where you're making 50% margin or something like that. But they would sell out, and then they would just build hype for the next one. They're like, guys, we sold out in 12 hours. The next one is going to be huge, even bigger. And then
that works in apparel every freaking time. If you create like an urgent need that you have to get the latest one before someone else does.
Yeah,
and then in between there, all you're doing is building a list. So they're going to your website. They can't buy anything, but you're giving them their email. And then their list just keeps on getting bigger. Right. So each launch reaches more and more people. They get more and more product. So there's always kind of this low supply, high demand artificially, but it really works and it makes your product kind of premium even if it isn't.
That's like the LuLaRoe model right there.
I was just going to say LuLaRoe. I used to weave baby wraps, like hand weave, so I know a lot about fibers and
What's
stuff.
What's a baby wrap?
You can like put your baby on your back.
You like swindle
and,
them?
Yeah, like swaddle them, but you tie them.
Swaddle them, that's the word.
Yeah, or they can
if we could swindle them, that'd be pretty good too.
Swindle isn't a good word.
Yeah. And so they're like, it's handmade, so it is like a high quality and highly sought after, and it takes time. But there's that list. It was that same like competitive market, and you'd have people that are like waiting for these things to come out. And I don't know why, but women consumers, that just makes their brain fire crazy, and they're like, I have to have it.
I'm telling you, release like a pink collar and like a matching pink hair tie or something, bitches will eat it up.
Literally.
Especially if you're like
dogs.
seasonal. Yeah. It's a seasonal, it's gone any minute. tomorrow.
No, yeah, it's something I'm just trying to survive the first day. So, I mean, I'm launching Tuesday, so this isn't even like a thing yet, right? It's still
It's really
a baby.
exciting.
I know it is exciting.
So-
I'm happy for you because we've given a lot to the industry, and then I guess it's time for you to try to get it back. You know, you gave a lot for a long time.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting to see. I think a lot of times, especially with something like reptiles, you get cornered into being that guy
Yeah.
or that person. And so, yeah, I mean, I am a reptile person, but I'm not like the reptile guy forever. And I'm glad to go do something else and see that, like, and hopefully something a little bit more fruitful and less soul crushing.
Soul crushing. Oh, that's the industry, though. If you haven't had your soul crushed today, you're not doing a good job.
And it's funny because I grew up in skating, particularly rollerblading. And growing up in the industry, they have all these sponsors that are pretty much, they set the marketing tone, even for their skaters. And they say, this is what you say about the industry. You say, like, oh, the industry's going to grow. The industry's fun. Everyone supports each other. No one say anything bad. And it kind of worked in that subset. And then you go to reptiles and it's like some people try to do that, but really it's toxic waters.
Yeah, I mean, we're all like loners and weirdos, so it's like hard to corral a bunch of loner weirdo cats, basically, to get them
no
to
filters.
fall into line. Yeah, and I was born
And
in a bin.
everybody's right, but
Oh,
no
yeah.
one's saying the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Mental illness at scale. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not going to be good. So you're not getting back into reptiles as a business, is what you're telling us, ever.
No, I think it would be interesting eventually to make a product for sure.
Yeah.
But it would be, and that's the thing also, it's like it would be so mainstream that it wouldn't be cool and like everyone would hate me. So like,
no.
but I would totally do it though. I would want to make something more mainstream that you can get in your Petco and PetSmart.
He was just gonna throw out Petco. I knew it.
I don't think people realize that that's actually what drives our industry. It's not mom and pop reptile shows. It's Petco, PetSmart, now probably Chewy, these other businesses that reach millions and millions of people that really drive the industry and is what made it viable for a lot of people like Gary from ZooMed or, you know, people who started Zillow, or even like, I know also it's like bad to like Josh's frogs now too, but
It is?
It is?
it is.
That's soul crushing.
Oh,
Why?
I missed
They're
it.
commercial frog people.
Oh, they have
It's like
one of the better
he tries
commercial
so
operations of anybody.
I know.
Like, for
I feel like
quality-
it's the only one that has a heart.
Yeah.
But
Oh, well.
no, people are assholes. So when I saw like that, there's some people that I feel like are who could have all the good intention in the world and they can just see the bad in them is kind of interesting. But yeah, so Petco, PetSmart, kind of the more mainstream end of the industry would be what I was interested in. And quite frankly, that's where you can make the most impact and can reach like younger people who are keeping, or if you create a good product, which is, there's not many great products that exist.
I was gonna say you don't even need to create a good product.
Should just
because
be
they're gonna
okay.
come buy a reptile from my show, and then they're gonna go to Petco or PetSmart, and they're gonna get what they're told to get. And so, even if it's not the right thing, or even if it's a shit product like the heat rock or the heat mat with no thermostat, like it doesn't matter what it is, like, because it's accessible and because it, like you said, it doesn't look like the mom and pop. That's the name you trust. It's a big name. It's in all the stores. This is what I'm going to get because I trust, because it's in Petco.
Right.
Yeah, so if someone has the capital to produce a product that is actually good for the animal, that they can actually market correctly, that they can actually package correctly, then you can make a giant impact, more so than bullshitting on YouTube and saying that Petco and PetSmart are, you know, a dark force that tortures animals. You can create a product that's actually good for animals and sell them in those stores and actually change the course of keeping for the younger generation of people.
I agree.
Can you launch for me like a out of the box Applegate style enclosure specifically for ball python people? Like it's PVC or maybe like a molded plastic like Vision,
Like a Vision.
but they just sell it in Petco, and it has a drawer, so the whole bottom is a tub, and there's like a chamber, and it comes up, and they can have a Viv up top, and then no ball pythons will have to be crunchy ever again. It'll be amazing. This is my
I would
request,
love
Joe.
to have. I mean, the fact that there's not an all-inclusive system where there's a thermostat built in, there's a heater built in, there's all these things that are you just set by a dial, set it and forget it type of thing, and like you said, easy to clean. Not all those corners where the urates
like
get stuck for the rest of eternity.
Forever, yeah.
4 square feet of screen for the whole thing to just like evaporate away into like the future.
Just a cheese grater also for their face. It's really
it's
awesome.
built in for your convenience. If your snake doesn't look like Voldemort, it's not a real snake.
Or your cat falls through it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so like there's a lot of room for improvement, but I don't see anyone really taking the ball and running with it, even though all these people are throwing out so much money into these mutations and shit like that too. I guess maybe it's to look cool in front of your friends, though. You can't really brag about your cool product. People really don't give a shit. They want to know about the morph that you made and the world's first and things like that.
If you could literally change the world for reptiles if you can launch a product and get it would make so many lives better, reptile lives. So yeah, absolutely.
I guess it is less sexy and less community oriented, though. I could see why, like, as a breeder, you're talking to other breeders, you're, in a kind of a game with each other and like a friendly, hopefully, competition of who can do something cool.
Sometimes it's not that friendly.
Yeah. I think there's definitely sections of good friends who have a lot of fun with it, but there's also other things.
I think the industry has gotten a lot better. It feels better, nicer, maybe. But maybe they're just better at hiding the fact that they all hate each other. Behind the scenes, I don't know.
Yeah, I think honestly the ball python people do kind of a good job at keeping the positivity and like, well, I mean.
Well, they have to sell their product. So
that was a good effort, though.
So there's a certain amount of like, you need to go to your downline with your MLM and sell, do your power hour and be like, ball python industry is doing great. And then keep sending that text. And they absolutely do that for sure. But it's just not as toxic as like, 5-6 years ago to me. I don't know. There just isn't quite as much drama, but there's still a lot.
Well, I think the overall conversation now is probably driven by like 4 people.
Yes.
I'm sure. The whole industry is kind of driven by 4 people. And luckily, I mean, at least 2 of those people are really good hands as far as being responsible, being like on the up and up, in my opinion.
Total assholes.
Yeah. So I think it is nice that those people at the top are actually responsible and have a good head on their shoulders and spew their bullshit correctly.
All right. Do you want to talk about...
That's the best one you could ever make. Sorry, guys.
Do you want to talk about herping in Texas? Have you been able to do anything yet? Now that it's warmer now?
Yeah, so it literally just got warmer like 2 days ago. So there really hasn't been anything yet, although I'll get out there eventually. I haven't seen anything since I've moved here, but I haven't tried that much. I haven't even had time to really go hiking as much. A lot of my activity lately has been like rock climbing and has been skating and stuff like that. And I'm old and it hurts. And yeah, so like I'm trying to do activity as much as possible, but it's kind of hard. I will probably go herping eventually. If someone hits me up to go to West Texas, I'll probably do that. I need to make it a point to take more time going forward and do stuff like that. So yeah, nothing yet. Although, I always had fun herping in Texas because, I mean, copperheads are some of my favorite snakes, and they're pretty much everywhere here.
The Slowinski eye in College Station, Bryan area, Texas,
really
are like the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, I didn't know that they really commonly went that west.
I was on iNaturalist, and I'm like, it's basically like, you know, it starts to get red again. I don't know why. So it'll look like a Miami face corn snake some of the time in certain spots around there. And I was like, this is my idea of a good time. So that's one, besides like West Texas, which is its own fucking like journey to Mordor and back. You know, you have something pretty nearby that would be fun to check out.
Yeah, that's low hanging fruit. That's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be so down.
Herping sucks up here. So.
Yeah.
You can find garters, right?
Fuck
you
yeah.
can find garters in everyone's backyard.
And it's funny because they're like $400 or $500 garters, but you're just like kicking them out of the way. Get.
Or more, yeah.
Right, because like
beautiful,
you can't collect them anymore.
Nope.
So like the 10 that were in the hobby 20 years ago are all that we have. So like of the Puget Sounds and Northwestern garters and there's not that many of them, but now they're really expensive again. So you're like, I don't care. You're more expensive than my shitty ball python. You need to go back in the field. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, until you produce one and they produce 60 babies, and then all of a sudden they're $100
Oh my
again.
God. I know people are like all into like promoting rare species breeding to keep them in the hobby, and I agree. But if people forget that even like Owen McIntyre can't sell bredli. You can't sell them all. It's like a big red snake. You should be able to obviously sell them, but like 2 or 3 extra clutches a year tanks the entire market for that year. So 2 or 3 right now, so many people are into garters. I feel like we're going to have literally 1 million garters again.
And they're live babies.
And they're
lots of them. Yeah.
We're going to have 1 million garters on the market in 2 years. It'll be fun. Jana, you did great picking garters.
Thanks. Fuck you too.
I think I need
but there are no garters in the Pacific Northwest at any of the shows.
Really?
Oh, yeah, locally, yeah. That's probably because that's the only snake outside, and they have to kick them out of the way because there's so many that they're like heavy on the ground.
But there are people who ask about them, but there are no vendors currently who breed them.
Yeah, I mean, shows in the West Coast, Joe, I don't know if you know this, they are not like any normal show.
It's going to be fine.
There's absolutely no inventory and no like long-term. There are some long-term breeders, but they're almost all exclusively ball python breeders. Like JMG Reptiles flew out here to vend hognose because there's no hognose breeders. It's a weird place. It's very strange. Like in the
it's its
East,
own little bubble of weird. It's like 10 years behind the rest of the industry.
or 40. Like the East Coast has like 40. Old farts coming down from the White Plains show who've been like scraping mites off of their berms for the last 30 years before they put it on display. And you know what I'm talking about, Joe.
I know exactly.
They smell kind of funny because their house is weird. You know, they smoke in their trailer with their berms. You know it's true. I've seen them.
Oh, I don't know if you're picking out a specific person, but I know at least 2 of those.
I know, like, I've seen 4 of the same person, and they usually have their tables with still glass tanks as their, like, presentation method some of the time, with some delis sort of smashed around it on, like, a plastic, picnic tablecloth that's, like, that plasticky material in case something dies on it, and they can just wipe it off with their sleeve. Yeah. I've been to Harvard to grow. I know what it's like. I went there a lot.
So that would be the worst $120 I ever made.
Did you only vend it once?
I would bring it in because I would be like, you know what? Maybe I'll give it another go.
All right, you're a team player.
$125. Nice. I can go home on this.
Oh, fuck.
And then, I would make the same mistake a few times. And then there ended up being, the solution was, let's just do more of them. And let's not only have more of them, let's have 2 people that hate each other's guts have 2 shows in the same venue, alternating weekends, in which one tries to steal you for their show and the other tries to steal you for the other, and then they put you in all their bullshit drama. And so that was the Havre de Grace show. And it really gave me a bad taste in my mouth for a particular business in the Northeast that's actually pretty big. It's like, you are the pettiest motherfucker, because like this one guy has been doing this show for like 20 years, and he's like an old hippie dude who like this is his show. And then one guy doesn't like what he says, and then he has enough money to just try to squash him, and it's like, and then try to scalp all of the people, like offering us free tables and stuff like that. It's
Wow.
yeah, is that too specific?
No, I love it.
And it was just really scummy, and it's person from Long Island, and you don't need any more red strikes against you than being from Long Island. And so yeah,
Fucking Joey.
Fucking
where's my
Mario
meatballs?
bag of donuts.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, show drama
what do
is
you
its
want to do
own,
with that shit?
own drama.
I just don't feel like we have that much show drama, but maybe I just keep my head
See,
down.
that's what I'm saying. That's the positive thing about it being a little bit more green, maybe, is that
It's
you
super
don't
green and
have.
it's
all this
very,
like built-in infrastructure of bullshit. Yeah,
Yes.
and because the shows are no more than every couple of months for 2 major metropolitan areas, you have 10 million people who, if they magically decide to be interested in reptiles, could just do that one show that one weekend. So there's absolutely no
Right.
competition for the show, which
I don't know. I feel like it's a good situation.
it
As
also
long
doesn't
as people are
smell.
coming through the door, then that means it's just opportunity for you guys to produce
Absolutely.
more and sell more.
Yeah. Yes. All right, Jana, do you want to do? Holy fuck! What number are we on? 8?
We have not followed the
No, we
numbers.
didn't. I'm so sorry. We're bad.
Wait, is this the list of questions? Did you plan on getting to all the questions?
No, I know. I don't know.
There's
It's
like
a
dozens
guideline.
of them.
Guideline. We've actually done a bunch of them on accident.
I think
Yeah.
I riffed on one for about a half hour.
That's
earlier,
fine. I
so.
love it.
How is your relationship with your rhino iguana going?
So I see her right now. I keep the
Wait,
sliding
now
glass door.
You gotta go get her.
Okay.
No, I don't think it's
If
that.
I want all my fingers, I don't think that's a good idea.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
So she's just chilling. I keep the sliding glass door open on her enclosure when I'm in here. So right now she's actually sitting on top of her enclosure. And it's funny that obviously I have a basking bulb in there, but she always chooses to like be in the natural sunlight, even though it's coming through the window. So right now she's just kind of basking on top of her enclosure and the sun's hitting her. But I try to coerce her with food. Like today, I got her like onto my knee, and she'll go on my knee and kind of hang out for a second and then kind of scurry off. So ultimately, she's still standoffish. She's probably coming up on a year old. And
It's just she's still really little.
yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I see these people handling their babies or handling ones that are her age. And I'm a little nervous that it may be like,
Missing the ball a little bit.
well,
Like you might be
that's whole
missing a
nother story.
developmental.
No, I think that it's just maybe a personality thing. There's probably some that are, because
For sure.
I tried very hard to start a relationship when she was from very young. And I think that some of these people do have like special individuals, just like there may be one scrub python that's perfectly docile that
Right.
one person
One.
has. Yeah. I think that it may be like one of the most oversold reptiles as far as how easy, friendly, good of a pet it is, to be quite honest.
I know you were so excited
But-
for so long, and then and I see you working with her, and I'm just like, I wonder if you're disappointed a little bit in her personality in particular.
Yeah, I mean, I am. Obviously, I only have a kind of sample of one, so I am curious if she'll ever get there. And I'm a little nervous that she won't. But she's getting.
Well, you'll need to get like 2 more and have like an outdoor enclosure so you can find the one that's nice.
Yeah, so that sounds fun in the summer, but I thought that there would really only be like 3 months where I would have to have her inside. But it does seem probably more like 5 if I want to be,
And stay
if I
in that
don't want to
area.
have supplemental heat and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, right now it's about probably 85 degrees out, or 86 degrees. So
Holy crap.
it would be pretty nice to have her out. I could probably do it. Probably direct sunlight is probably getting 100 degrees in one spot pretty easily. But I'm not ready to like have her out when it's 50 degrees and be all nervous.
Right.
And have to like look at the weather every day. And then when it's going to be cold for one day, either lock her into somewhere that has warmth or try to bring her inside when she's already not docile and kind of ruin that trust. So right now she's just inside. She pretty much owns this office. So this is my office that I work from. But she pretty much owns it and does her own thing. And I can coerce her to where I want her to go most of the time, but I also don't really push it. So I've had to move her for different things, but unfortunately I need to towel her and grab her.
Oh,
okay.
In which is a whole like, mouth open type of situation.
That is definitely not how they are portrayed on Instagram.
No, so this thing will take a piece of your finger for sure. But then again, it's not something that's gonna like come out and attack you or anything. I think that would be crazy.
Leave
Just
me the F
skittish
alone,
and scared.
I'll leave you the F alone.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a personality thing, but it's definitely not all individuals are docile. And I think that even talking to people who have them as well, it takes a long time to build trust with them. Some people have done the like force their will upon them, and it kind of has worked, but I'm not gonna do that, and I don't really have thick enough gloves, or I don't want to take the risk of and then just making her more unhappy or me being banned. None of it's good. So yeah, I'm just chilling with her and seeing what happens. So I think that's why, say if you look when Brian's gotten his rhino iguanas, he has gotten them, I want to say probably a year and a half, 2 years into it. They're already docile. He paid probably $1,500 instead of the $500, but I think they warrant that extra money because I want to say that there's only so many individuals that are going to be super docile.
Yeah.
I think they very much want everything on their own terms and stuff like that, more so like a really pissed off cat, more so than a puppy dog, right? So, so yeah, I don't know.
Who else do you still have from the original collection?
So I do have the brain.
He's still there? Nice.
Yeah, and I have a Texas rat snake, and I have Yoda, which is a lychee, and I have Bacon, who's a crested gecko, and I have a few other crested geckos as well.
So just one corn snake.
Yeah, isn't
wow,
that crazy?
it is crazy.
Way crazy.
How does that feel? I get it if it hurts your feelings. You don't have to talk about it, but like, does it make you feel like you've let something go that was so important to you, or you obviously chose to let it go, or does it feel freeing to just have another Tony, but his name is Brain now?
So are you referring to Tony like my original?
Yeah, it's a new
corn
Tony,
snake?
but now he's the Brain.
She's a hardcore fan nerd.
Holy shit. So Tony was like 16 years old, and he actually passed away like a year ago or so.
Right. I'm sorry that your snake died.
No.
I just meant like he's your new pet.
I was so surprised that you knew that.
Original OG all day.
Hard.
That's awesome. So now I have the Brain, who is kind of my mascot all throughout Port City Pet. I kind of used him in different things. So he is a non-negotiable. But it felt like by the time I was ready to go, I was ready to go. As far as, I don't think if you cared about your animals like I cared about my animals, in order to do that, you need to be ready to let go in a way that, I mean, I wouldn't have sold them if I wasn't ready to do so.
Yeah.
Or giving them away, whatever.
And the chondro's gone also, it seems like.
Yeah, so I shipped it out to a friend.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to know, like, the current menagerie.
So it's pretty bare bones, pretty simple, and it was getting really hard to move with all the animals, going from Philly to Texas again. And, it made sense to do this. Even in Philly, I downsized a lot because I ended up going to, like, a one-bedroom apartment in the city. I just wanted to, like, hey, I'm only young once. I want to actually live in the city and have
fun,
an apartment in the city and do stuff. Yeah. I mean, I had a period where, snakes were like my whole 20s. I kind of wanted to have a period of a little bit less stress and less responsibility and be able to do more things for myself. So that kind of allowed me to do that.
Your Slowentii girl laid eggs yesterday. I don't know if you saw.
Really? No, I didn't.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So you're the grandfather. So if you need another pair, let me know.
She's got to do the reptile push.
It will. I'm sure it will happen eventually.
Yeah, they're still like beefy, and they're just a different snake for sure than a corn snake. So they're both probably het silverleaf because that's all that's floating around is pet heads and pos heads. But let me know, I'll hook you up.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'll get there eventually. Don't worry.
All right. This is a self-serving question.
We're only on number 10. Come on.
No, yeah, we're almost done. When you switched from chatty to interviews only, almost, was that just because you wanted to become more professional or just elevate your podcast game? You didn't want to do chatty, or were you like, you deleted that 3-hour drunk podcast episode, and it was my favorite, and it's gone.
OG hardcore fan.
And I looked for it, and I was like, this fucker deleted it. He was embarrassed. I'm like, don't be embarrassed. Like, that was the best part. I don't even remember now. I remember listening to it in 2019, and it was from like the year before, and it was hilarious. And it's quality content, and it's gone now. The world cannot experience it because you've let it go. I think we should bring it back. Special edition.
Some things will get you in trouble.
Sure, but like, does it? The authenticity might outweigh whatever the negative
the fact
perception.
that I can never have relationships with particular people in the industry.
But does it matter? Because you only need your like 1,000 best customers. You don't need, everyone to be your best friend.
That sounds easier said than done. So
no,
I think So I think if I was able to completely get out of the industry while still having a business, that would be a thing. But I think that the relationships in this business in particular are very important because so many people have a mouthpiece to talk bad about you.
Right.
And a lot more of a following and can totally kind of ruin you in a way. So, I mean, if I did it again, there's a guy in Wisconsin, I think it's Reptile Rapture.
Familiar. I don't know.
He has a lot of cool animals. He has an amazing shop. He has a bunch of employees. But I never saw him in the industry, like, almost at all. And it's like he was able to build a business, stay out of the kind of, not the community, but like, kind of mind his own business and do his thing. And I think that's what I do. And that's really nice. So maybe if I started over again, I would do something like that. But it's kind of hard to do. You get kind of sucked in.
Right. So that would be your, like, if you had all the information now, you probably wouldn't have done the podcast at all. Just gone to a
maybe I would have done the
business.
Podcast, but maybe not. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to be like,
no idea.
You can't like make yourself understand the things that you know now, but if you could, I'm saying it's like, should we stop having a podcast? I need you to tell me. I've already eaten shit and fucking put my foot in my mouth at least 3 to 4 times on this podcast. So like, where's the muzzle? We need to find it quick.
Well, I mean, like you said, I guess it doesn't matter. You can say whatever you want. Yeah. I mean,
especially if no one's listening.
People only cared for like one episode for like a minute.
Yeah, and even then, I was so surprised about the amount of people who've been like, such and such doesn't like this opinion or whatever, and then they're like, I don't even know who that is, so it doesn't matter to me that person has an opinion. Like, I like you, so I don't care what they think about you, because their relationship is with us, not like the one opinion that's over here. I don't know.
Well, I think what I didn't love eventually is that if I had Tyler Nolan on my podcast, then all of a sudden I'm the free handler. I'm a piece of shit. I'm guilty by association. When my interest in doing the podcast was actually to talk to him and get his story and get his side because he's fucking interesting. Even if he doesn't do what people want him to do, it's interesting that he does what people don't want him to do. So if I had him on my podcast, I'm giving him a platform. Even though his YouTube's so much fucking bigger than anything that I ever had, I would be guilty by association, and he actually wouldn't get any of the flack because he's just used to that, and they wouldn't reach out to him. All of a sudden, I'm the bad guy. But like, I just wanted to have a good podcast.
Right.
So I would have, in order to build my podcast, the next step would have been like having Chandler on, having Tyler on, having all these people on that I find interesting. In which I think people forgot that like I did that in the beginning with, say, Paul Rosalie, who did
the Eaten by the Anaconda guy.
By Anaconda guy.
That one was good though, because like otherwise no one in the hobby would have ever given him even 2 shits of credit ever, because it looks so bad on first blush. But you know,
and you know who did the safety on that?
Who?
It was oh damn, what's his name? Kevin McCurley.
Fuck!
He did production of that.
Are you serious?
And and I think they borrowed one of I forgot whose animal it was. I don't know if it was Bob Clark's anaconda or if it was Kevin's anaconda. They borrowed someone and they like filmed it in Oklahoma or some bullshit. Like they filmed it in St. Louis.
That's funny.
Yeah. So even if some people say that they're in the right and don't believe in something, I mean, they have their hand in certain things.
Right.
And
well,
everyone's liable to be a hypocrite for attention and or money. So I don't know. It's I would love to have all those people on and talk to them and get their points of views, but then I get you get more of this flack for their doings than even they do, which is silly. It's like, would you ever think like Barbara Walters has on some murderer? Would you be like, Barbara Walters is a murderer?
Yeah, what a
like
bitch.
she's a piece of shit. Yeah.
Like, I guess that's a good reason to have like
killing all these people.
It's a good reason to have like very distinct, like, this is the interview YouTube channel for Port City or From the Ground Up, and then like this is a Port City YouTube channel, Port City Pet or whatever. Like, to divide them so hard that you're like not speaking with authority, you're an interviewer, and then you're speaking of authority over whatever your topics on your videos were, which the algorithm would like that better anyway, because it would know to push them differently. I don't know. Yeah, it's very complicated. I have no idea what we're doing at any point. So
we totally have experienced that though, when we had a controversial person on, and it was crazy. Like, no one gave a fuck about our podcast, and then we had somebody on that a bunch of people don't like, and they were like, fuck you all. And it just was like crazy. Like, you've never listened to any of our other podcasts, but this one really pissed you off because we just let him speak his truth, like, and we didn't filter it, and everybody was like, this is not okay.
Sorry. Maybe if you angle more as a media interview person solely alone, maybe it works. I don't know.
To me, like, I liked the 2 dudes or dudettes talking format because it sort of allows us. So maybe I should never have mixed in interviews. I'll have to just delete this whole thing. Sorry, guys. But
oh shit.
But like, I just wanted reptile conversations that were between 2 friends, and it never had to be like a big ordeal. I don't want to cold email people. I just want to talk about stuff that I think is interesting. And so that is obviously, nobody's going to sponsor this bullshit, this fucking drivel. I don't know. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know how to manage any of that very well.
You're probably wrong. You could probably figure it out. But
yeah.
And I mean, but it's also, I mean, the first 2 years of me doing my podcast was figuring it out. I think that's the whole thing, is that like, it's perspective and experience, and maybe if I started over again, I would do certain things differently with what I know now. And like, but the only way you learn those things is by doing. So you kind of have to do it in the beginning.
And I did,
fuck it up.
Yeah.
I loved those first 2 years. I know you act like they were terrible. I like that they were authentic and raw and sort of a better look into your personality and your ambitions or whatever. And so that was good to transition into whatever after that. I don't think they should be deleted.
That hadn't been crushed yet.
Yeah, you were doing good.
Yeah, I think it's hard to continue putting yourself out there in those ways because it does make you vulnerable.
Right.
And as an introverted person, those vulnerabilities, having to deal with people picking at them is very difficult for me. Maybe I'm probably much more secure of who I am now. I'm also not I'm also not that unhinged as I probably was when I was that old. So part of it is that I kind of am more of a tamed down individual now. But also I wanted to be more and more professional because I was building a business. There's just a lot of factors in there why I guess it does kind of take I'm trying to think of a better word than the balls out of it, but
Right.
it did. And also times are changing and things are more politically correct. And I
Right.
couldn't say,
I know I'm not
we
politically
said
correct.
like the C word on the podcast. It's not good. No one wants to hear that.
I have one, and I think it's okay. So does that give you a pass? I don't know.
I don't think so.
We
Okay.
say whatever we want, and
I
no
know, but
one
we're
cares.
gonna fucking pay
No
for
one's
it one day.
listening.
So
I
hard.
tried to tell people that I was using it in the UK connotation, but that's not a good excuse, I guess.
I would have. I guess if I were you, I would have just like edited it out with like a funny sound effect of like a snake farting or whatever, and just like made it it's still obvious what it is, but it's like part of the joke now that it had to be censored.
That would take work, Jessica.
Yeah, I know.
That would
Sorry.
be terrible.
I fucking edited out stuff with the SpongeBob dolphin sound effect because I'm a barbarian, I guess, and nobody gets it. I keep being like, "That's a monkey." I'm like, "You've never watched SpongeBob?"
Yeah,
hell?
it
a
does
dolphin.
not translate to me. Sorry. I don't know. I feel like my biggest concern is, like you said, that people that have a bigger following or that have a bigger voice in the industry, if they don't like what you're saying, they do because of like keyboard warriors and the following. They can come and just squash you and squash your reputation over nothing. Like just because they decide, oh, I don't like your face today, the industry can come and just. And so that was my hesitation, is that we do talk about controversial stuff. We talk about disease testing, and we talk about, the behind the scenes. It's not all roses and everyone making bank. And so my concern was, if you're saying these controversial things, that you're going to piss off somebody bigger, maybe eventually, maybe it's in 3 years or maybe 100 years of talking on the podcast, and then people will start finally listening, and you can piss those people off and they can end your career in the industry like that. And that's kind of scary.
Yeah,
that
the industry is smaller than you think it is. At first, it seems so big, and then it gets so small, and then all of a sudden, things get to everyone, and you just got to be very mindful. And I will say, I don't want to talk bad about anyone either. I mean, that's just general, not good practice. So, but it's hard to hold back opinions that may affect someone's business, and you don't want to take food out of someone's mouth that's liable for them to go and do something to you. So maybe me saying my opinion that eventually most pythons are going to have nidovirus, and probably all the big collections in the world have nidovirus. Actually, all the big collections in the world have nidovirus. It's more of controlling the spread than stopping the spread. Then something like that may get someone who's very big who sells ball pythons for $20,000 mad at me, and I don't want to give a shit about them anymore.
Right.
Yeah, they do all have fucking nidovirus, so it's fine.
Not that I hold that opinion. That was just an example.
Oh, I
do. Of course,
do.
I would never think anything like that.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, Joe didn't think that. That was me. It's fine. All right, the last question. If you hadn't had Nido go through your ball pythons, how long do you think you'd have drank the Kool-Aid or the disease that could have been Nido? Like, because the margins are better than on
the RI.
The margins are better, right? So you can drag it out longer with a ball python. So like, and you like blackhead, but it's beautiful. Just admit it. Like, do you think you would have still come to the same disposition now, or do you think that sort of hurt you in a way that was critical?
I have a very hard time doing what everyone else is doing. So I think I would have gone the other way anyway. So when I started with colubrids, no one really cared at all.
Right.
Now they have a little bit of traction and stuff like that. But when I started, they were $20 in a deli cup, and no one cared. So I really loved the idea of that being kind of not shown on YouTube, not shown in these other places. And I could kind of shine a light on them and try my best to carve out a niche of my own. So not only did I like those animals better, not only did I find them easier to keep, not only did they not have Nido, they and were
benefit.
alive. It just they were easier to keep. All these things in which I thought people touted ball pythons for, that wasn't reality.
Right.
I think when I first started, it was ball pythons are easy to keep. They're easy this way, that way, which, I mean, they can be. But when it comes to feeding, I mean, I always had the one who needed live. I always had the one who needed certain whatever to eat. And I can imagine having thousands of them. I guess you just always feed live. I mean, I think that's what most people do. But yeah, it was just colubrids made more sense for me. It's where I started as a keeper. They were underserved, so I could kind of have my own. No one young was doing it. Everyone was 50 plus at the time.
I really think you changed the corn snake market almost single-handedly. And I know you don't believe me or something. Come on, be honest.
I think that in reptiles, things do ebb and flow.
Right.
So naturally, things will be more popular than others.
You led the charge on the corn snake front in particular in terms of colubrids coming back as a popular item again.
What's upsetting is that I pretty much got out of it, and every single python person that I ever talked to and used to be friends with now all have corn snakes.
I know, what the heck, dude.
What's up, man? When I was selling corn snakes, no one cared, and all of a sudden now all these people care about corn snakes and all these things. But yeah, I think the market gets pulled by by bigger forces sometimes. So it can be pulled by reptile industries having a bad season with something. And, they sell thousands and thousands of these things. So they have a big influence on the market. All these wholesalers, things like that. All of a sudden, if a wholesaler is willing to spend $25 on a wholesale corn snake instead of $5, then there's going to be hundreds more people breeding thousands and thousands and thousands of corn snakes. So there's market demands outside of our basically view, and there's people like Barchek who probably he kind of always had colubrids on his channel, so I'm surprised that
it was probably a perfect storm of like straight up ball python fatigue, and people are just looking for anything else to transition to, and the prices were absolutely below the cost of production. So they're like, this is a cheap and easy pet to get, and then there's not enough supply, and so it's an easy price bump. But I think you rode the curve right up, and I think there's a legacy of post from the ground up pricing and interest that I think is real. I don't know. Maybe I'm making shit up. I don't know. You did it, Joe. Good job. Thank you for saving corn snakes.
Hopefully I did something.
You did it.
Because, it's nice to at least make your mark on something a little bit. And, I am proud of what I have out there podcast-wise, content-wise, all the animals and stuff like that. And it was fun, and it was a learning experience. And it was, when I first started, I think I was 22. And, it was a good ground to mess up and play around, and a small enough pool to where I didn't get, in too much trouble for my mess ups and things
Libel,
like that.
Slander cases. That's pretty good.
So
that's what we're gonna
it pretty much I grew up. That was my formative adulthood, I suppose. In the reptile community and stuff like that, and figuring out what I like and I don't like. And it at least if anyone who's listening is younger, say 18 or something like that, and they're like, I don't know what to do with my life. The reason why I'm able to do what I do now is because I started a reptile business. I made a website with reptiles. I made social media that got traction. And then I was able to quantify my success. So on my resume, it still says that Port City Pet YouTube channel got 4 million views, because that's what we're able to do. And guess what? Businesses are willing to hire you if you have a skill set that works like that. Any business wants to have 4 million views on YouTube, wants to have that many eyes on their product. So even if the reptile thing doesn't work out, even if whatever you start when you're young doesn't work out, you're going to have experience that's marketable in the job market, even outside of college degree. Because everyone, like I said before, everyone has a college degree, things like that. So I think the moral of the story is to just do things and stop thinking so much about it. And it all just kind of works out in the end. Because, I don't know, I feel like a degenerate who is able to have a real good corporate job for at least a few years. And it's solely because of reptiles. So I was able to build a legitimate career off of reptiles. And not many people who breed reptiles for a living can even say that. So
Not many people
Yeah.
hit the mark.
Yeah.
So I think I leveraged it correctly and made it work for me. And I think anyone can essentially do that. And if it's not reptiles, I think honestly the hardest thing is letting go of
Aw.
being that reptile person for that long and stuff like that.
Right. It's like an identity thing.
Closing
Oh
that
yeah,
chapter.
100%. Yeah. I mean, that's why like I just left for a year to figure
I
out
know.
like
You were.
who.
We would talk about you in the secret channels. We're like, what's Joe doing? Where'd Joe go? And I think we thought you were just processing. But we've had a lovely 2 hours. Thank you for coming on. Can you tell us the launch date again and website, social media, please?
Yeah, so launch is going to be Tuesday. I'm probably going to send out an email around 8 a.m. So if you go to vertpet.com, you can sign up for the email, and then you can get that in your inbox when it gets launched. So Tuesday, I'll be shipping out. I don't know how quick you get these podcasts up, but
I'll try to get it up tonight, Sunday, the
She does really
27th.
fast.
So
okay.
it'll
no
be up.
pressure. You don't have to do it for me. Don't worry.
No, I just
No,
like
she
to
does it
because
that fast anyway. Yeah, that's how she always
it would
is.
bother me to have to be like, I have unedited material waiting for me.
I
But
was
I'll get
always
it
the
up
same
tonight.
way,
Yeah, I was. It's not doing me any good sitting on a hard drive waiting for me to do something with it.
For me, I need the attention span to keep on going. Like,
Yeah.
I just need to get it done right after while I'm excited, and
Otherwise
or else it would
right.
be in the abyss.
All right. Thank you
Yep.
for coming on.
Nice to meet you. No, if you want us to put your product as our thumbnail, you also send that to Jessica.
Oh yeah.
Next week, I don't know what the fuck we're talking about, but it's definitely not going to live up to this one. So, bye.
Bye.
Say bye, Joe.
Bye.